I'm going to be talking about Dunkirk, but before I do, I just want to quickly explain why I'm doing it in front of a camera instead of putting a trailer over it. And that's because I want my opinion on the movie to seem as natural and as human as possible. I don't want to seem like I robotically structured an opinion to gain controversy, to get views, or anything like that. I do legitimately feel this way about the movie, and I don't want people to doubt the legitimacy of it because I'm hiding behind a video to do whatever. So with that being said, people love Dunkirk, and I don't love Dunkirk. I was bored for a majority of the movie, and there's a very specific reason for that I'll get into in a second. Just gonna look at my notes real quick. I've done this like 1,000. I've done so many takes of this, and I keep messing it up. So I wrote down some stuff. That's the other thing. I don't want to edit it. I just want to just talk. So before I get into like the specific reason that I didn't like it, I do want to say that more than anything, I'm disappointed that I didn't like the movie because there is so much there to enjoy. Everything on the technical side of this movie is phenomenal. The cinematography and editing are both like probably, maybe except for Memento, Christopher Nolan's best work visually. It's just, so there is some shots in this movie that are just incredible. Like, I remember them so vividly and so well because they were so impactful and so intense in the moment. And I just like, I have to mention that like that aspect of the movie was just amazing. And that's like one of the things that I'm disappointed about for me not enjoying. Also, the sound design and the music work really well together. And it's something that adds like a lot to the movie. Like the way the score is designed around sounds instead of specific melodies is a really cool way of like immersing the music and the score into the movie. Like the music doesn't seem like this separate thing that exists outside of the movie that someone put on top. It feels like something that comes from the environment of the film, and that was really cool. And it adds into what I want to say, which is, if you're going to enjoy the movie, you're going to enjoy it so much more in cinemas. Like if you're wanting to wait for the Blu-ray or for to pirate it or something, you're honestly making a mistake. Like if you're going to enjoy the movie, you will love it so much more in the cinema because A, the bigger screen, but B, like the volume of things the volume of the things that are happening is so well done. Like when planes are flying overhead or when you're in the airplane scenes with Tom Hardy, like the volume of that stuff is so immersive and so intense. You are honestly like missing out if you don't see it in a cinema. So that's the stuff that I really, really loved about it. The one very specific thing that takes me out and that distracts me and that I didn't like was the structure. So, Dunkirk is non-linear, but it's non-linear in a way that I think was unnecessary, and that rather than being something that just was there and I didn't really think about it, it was something that actively took me out of the movie. For a reason I'll get into, but it's what happens is it starts off with this one scene. The movie's based around 3 separate stories, and so the opening scene is that first story. But rather than telling them linearly and then connecting them together, which is the way I think it should have been done, it cuts between the 3. And so what happens for me is I think there ends up being a lack of setup. The movie doesn't require that much setup because it's a really simple premise and it's not something that you need to be like explicitly explained to. It's like, they're on this beach, they're in this like small town, they're surrounded, they need to get out. That's not something that needs to be explained very heavily, but I felt there needed to be some context and some setup for what was going on. Because there wasn't like, there are characters that are in each of the stories that you can attach to, but I didn't get reasons to attach to them. They're just kind of like there and things are happening. The movie, rather than being structured in a way that I think would make sense and that I think would make me invested, as in like they start with this and that sets up the thing, and then they go into this like other bit that's like a bit more intense, and then the end scene, like in my mind, the last third of the movie would be Tom Hardy's like plane bits, because they're all phenomenal. And I think that structure would have made the movie like intense and engaging and entertaining in a way that it's not in its current state. Because what happens is, instead of having an opening scene that gives context to what's happening, it cuts away from the context constantly. So instead of having like the big opening moment, it has its opening moment, and then that opening moment just keeps going and doesn't stop until the end of the movie. Which for me got really overbearing and overwhelming, and I just wanted to slow down and like find out like, who do I care about, what's happening, what are the stakes here. And you do get that towards towards the middle of the movie. There is a bit that's happening in the first story where the captain has this really great conversation of there's this amazing dialogue between him and this other guy. And I think that if that had happened at the beginning of the movie, I would have been locked in for the whole thing. Whereas what's happened because of the structure is, I spend the first hour of the movie thinking like, okay, cool, more action, like, thanks, I don't really care. And then I spent the second hour being like, this is really cool, they have some great moments, I'm invested. I think what could have happened is that dialogue could have happened at the beginning, and the whole thing would have been me just being like, this is amazing, I love it so much. Hopefully that sort of makes sense. If you've seen the movie, I think you'll understand what I'm talking about, because the friend I saw it with said the chronology was confusing, but he didn't really like it. Didn't distract him as much. He thought he was just more invested in it than I was. What I do want to say is, don't let my opinion stop you from seeing it. I just feel obligated to explain why I don't like it. And that's not to say that I'm going to give it a poor rating either, because I think there's a lot of things in it that are really, really good and that definitely bring it up. If I try to detach my own feelings about the story from it, the movie's phenomenal. Well, phenomenally made. I I wouldn't call the story phenomenal at all, because it really detracted from the movie. But yeah, hopefully that kind of makes sense and explains what I'm talking about. If I had to rate it, I don't think you should take my rating with a grain of salt, because I'm really like conflicted on what to give it, but it would be either a 7 or an 8. Probably leaning more towards an 8, but yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Thank you.